Good morning, everyone. Sue, will you do roll call?
Morning. President Davidson,
Present.
Vice President Ricketts, absent. Secretary Martucci, present. Treasurer Gundry,
Present.
Director Bardell, Director Hector, Director Martin,
Present.
Director Ryan,
Present.
Director Shaw. We have a quorum.
Will you please, I'll call the meeting to order at 9:30, and will you please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prior to the approval of the previous board minutes, we did receive the finalized draft of the audit of the land trust, and it needs to be approved by the board, so could I have a motion to add it to new business? Thank you, Ray. You'll second it, Jim? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? So under new business, we have added the acceptance of the audited draft of the land trust minutes. Next item on the agenda is approval of the August 5th, 2022 minutes. Board of Directors, can I have a motion to approve it?
Sure.
You're so kind, Jim. Then I will call on Ginger first instead of our recording secretary, Mr. Knott. Make sure you keep good notes.
Good morning. Well, we came in on two wheels with this report as it's only September 2nd, so we're collecting all our month-end numbers. Just a couple of points here. I know that this is the first the board has seen it. Under spa and salon usage, you can see we had a good month in August, somewhat rare. July was somewhat rarely low, so those folks who hadn't gotten their services came back in, a nice little increase month over month there. And then the CA usage it was interesting, it's 142%. Of course, there's smaller numbers, but we had some more interest there in August with that group. You go down to the South Club patrons of food and beverage, you can see that was a 16% decline in usage, about 1,100 less patrons there because of, the closures and construction. Interestingly enough, though, it was only a 2% decrease in sales over prior month. So a lot less people, but the ones that were gone were spending more money. So I haven't been able to dig real deep into these numbers. Like I said, we just got them and we were churning them out as fast as we could. On projects, still working on investigating the South Club's HVAC unit and what we can do down there. On the South Club pool expansion plan with phase 1, we need everybody in the room to cross your fingers. All documents have been submitted to the county for their review and approval, and we are now just waiting for the final review, which hopefully will result in issuance of the permit. On phase 1.5, we've begun earthwork and removing the poles, and the outdoor pool and spa resurfacing has begun. As many people are aware, once they went into the resurfacing process, a crack was discovered at the bottom of the pool, which caused the delay. But good news, we began filling the pool today. So that's 206,000 gallons we got to pump in there. And we hope it's, is Victoria here? No, she's still down. Yeah, she said it should be ready next week. So, you got to get it filled up, and then you got to get the water treated, and then you got to get the water warm. So it's not a quick process, if any of you have had pools yourself or experienced that. So on the it says to be determined phase 3. That's where the ad hoc committee for the RFEC investigated a future sound system for the Tiki Bar and South Club renovation project. They did come up with a recommendation, and they also have some funding source recommendation that will be provided in an executive summary to the Federation Board in their October meeting. On the roof coating, nothing to talk about here, folks. It's going fine and has no impact on resident usage. As far as the main clubhouse renovation project, the northeast hallway and woodshop bathrooms have reopened. The removal of the old tile and the installation of the moisture barrier and painting of the walls has been completed in one section of the lobby. The new tile installation in the lobby has begun and will continue for several weeks because that's a big old lobby over there and a lot of tile. And once that section that's been blocked off is completed, then we'll transition to the next section, which will be the area in front of the transportation office and in front of the lobby doors. So a lot of work going on in the clubhouses. On special events, summer series is underway. On the winter series, the team is extremely pleased that the ticket sales for the entire winter series have surpassed prior year's sales. With the success of the full series sales, this may be the first year that individual tickets may not be offered for certain shows. At the current time, the bleacher seats have sold out for most shows, and then we're anticipating certain shows selling out prior to individual ticket sales being released on November 1st. So, what does that mean? If residents desire to see the winter series performance, the Pick 7 or Pick 4 may be the best option, and those go on sale on September 15th. Pick 7 is now. The flu shots will be available September 19th to the 23rd. And just a couple of notes on the new services that are being brought in. The first ever erasable med spa and Botox services in Kings Point was a phenomenal success. The August 31st informational session was full and all services available for that day were booked. So we apparently have found a need. Physician Stat Lab will be on site every Monday. Podiatry services will return in September. On-spot dermatology will return to Kings Point each month. And Deliver RX will continue to offer COVID test kits, vaccine boosters, and flu shots. Sign-up dates will be communicated through the Vesta emails. And we'll just move on to security here. Just a couple of notables. A relative of a resident called Gate Security concerned about their mother. The caller informed security that they had contacted the neighbor to request a check-in because the neighbor had a key, which is quite common. People have their friends with a key so they can check them out. But when the neighbor got there, they couldn't get into the house because the outer door was locked. So they contacted security. Security went out, and we're not permitted to do a forced entry. We can't break into houses. So they contacted the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. They arrived, found the resident had fallen, needed medical attention, and they were transported through the hospital. This just really highlights again the importance of all of us working together, the neighbors, the people calling in, the security team, and the local agencies, and luckily they were taken care of instead of being in there for some additional length of time. And then finally, security received a call at 5 p.m. from a resident that was out on a walk, and they informed security they had witnessed a car running over an alligator. The driver stopped, turned around, looked at the alligator, and kept going. But the caller was concerned because the injured alligator had crawled into the bushes, and they thought, might be a safety concern for passersby, walkers, or bikers. So security dispatched an officer, now known as Gator Boy, on the team. He went out to the location and secured the area while they waited for the trapper to arrive, and the trapper was able to remove the alligator from the community, allegedly after a very active alligator protest. So they did take care of him. I also want to turn the mic over to Matthew. He's got an update on more lightning.
How were the storms here late yesterday, last night? On that note, During last night's storm, the South Club was hit by lightning and the specialized secure router was damaged despite a surge protector. The strike has impacted our point-of-sale systems, email communications, and phone lines, as all of them are currently down. We have currently brought down an emergency cell phone that can be utilized for any calls to the South Club, including Portico pickup. So for anybody that would like to order or has questions for any of the South Club team members, that phone number is 813-323-7588. We are also going to send out an email communication to the community, as this is kind of breaking news late last night and early today. If you need to speak with any member of the team, feel free to call that and the cell phone will be available. Please be patient with the team, as all food and beverage transactions will be manual until the new device is installed. We currently have a team member on the way to the Ocala area to pick up the device. So they're going to drive there and drive back and install, and usually once they get back there, it takes about an hour to test it through. So that is occurring as we speak. And then also in breaking news, those of you who tune into COVID and the boosters and the CDC will note that that was recently approved. We are anticipating those variant-specific boosters being available here in the Kings Point community on the 19th and 20th based on demand, so we will also communicate that out. So lots going on.
You said the 19th to the 20th. Did you mean the 19th to the 23rd?
I meant the 19th and the 20th.
20th, so
That's the flu, I think you're referring to, the flu shots.
are you going to give can a person get both at the same time now?
Yes,
That's
they
what I
can.
was wondering, but they'll only be available for the 20th?
The 19th and the 20th right now, because we don't have the space necessarily to offer it on any of the other days, because the flu shots will be in the modular. I'm going to have a backup date as the 29th in the theater, that way we can do the volume, but we'll see what the demand is. But right now, 19th and 20th.
Ginger, walking in this morning, sticking my nose where it doesn't belong, it looks like the perk floor has been tiled. Am I correct, or were my eyes deceiving me?
You're correct. It's not completely finished, but yeah.
But they have started that
Oh,
before
yeah.
they did the other outer
The
tile.
herringbone is absolutely beautiful, yeah.
And anybody who is leaving, and if you go out the north door,
Jack, do not tell everybody to look.
no, what I was
You know,
going
it's
to,
vertical plastic.
what I was going to say is if you stop at the door and just look in, you will see the colors of the painting. The floor is not done yet. Don't anticipate what I was going to say. You'll see what the lobby is going to look like just by looking in the two open doors.
Beautiful.
Which is absolutely gorgeous in the colors that have been selected. So you can see what the lobby is going to look like. Of course, you don't have the tile floors in, but you'll be able to see the walls, because I think the walls are all done and everything. That's what I was going to say. I didn't want them to go try and take a tour in construction area. And can our recording secretary do the manager report?
Morning, everyone. I want to start with talking a little bit about landscaping. I know that the board is fully aware that landscaping across Kings Point has been a challenge, specifically in regard to contract performance. We at First Service also steadily hear the increasing concerns from the residents. I want to assure the board and the membership that we at First Service are fully committed to our role as contract managers and are actively working together with all parties, vendors and residents alike, to improve the overall look of your community. There are three aspects of this that I would like to touch on. And the first one is community involvement. The structure for landscaping performance relies on the point of contact concept, the POCs. Each association must have active POCs who utilize the work order system and residents who report issues to POCs so that we can track and verify the vendor's performance. Second thing I would like to point out is landscape performance relies on the oversight of one dedicated First Service residential landscape specialist. He grades all 5,525 units in common areas within Kings Point every single week. Putting that another way, it is one person's responsibility to inspect landscaping of 1,105 units every day. That's 138 units an hour. There is an admin support person to assist, but the review of performance is left up to one individual. This must change, and steps are being taken to address that. Third point I would like to make is about communication and education. I'm asking the board to consider authorizing the general manager of First Service, myself, to provide member boards with a monthly written landscape executive summary to be emailed after the grading meeting that explains and outlines the monthly grade for their section landscaper. The executive summary will also be a good platform for delivering educational and relevant topic material on a timely basis. On to the bulk of the report, landscaping, work orders. We did have the landscape review meetings this past Wednesday with all 4 landscapers. Bulk mulch, the bulk mulch contracts, if you're participating in that, they are due in at close of business next Tuesday, September the 9th. So far, we've got about 45%.
Tuesday's not the ninth.
Did I? Oh, the 6th. My report stands corrected. Next Tuesday. We got a lot going on. There's a lot, but we got about 45% participation right now from the entire property. Association landscape schedules are now posted on kpscc.com landscaping tab. Brown's Tree, just a quick update there, elevating and deadwood clean out is in Nantucket, Manchester, Southampton, Princeton, Tremont, and Villeroy in September, and we'll then begin section 2. Landscape work orders are as reported. I don't need to read through all of those. They were actually down in August compared to July, and our average days to close them out went up a day. Administratively, thank you, Matt, thank you, Vesta, for helping us put together the calendar for the association annual meetings. They are being scheduled for January and February of 2023, so everybody's going to get that in the back of your mind that we'll be coming out with that annual meeting and the budget process as well. The budget draft timeframe, we will shoot for November availability to have budget drafts to the boards as well. On a good note here, there is a virtual board certification course available from Bush Ross next Thursday, September 8th. Right, at noon. We encourage everyone, whether you have been through it before or not, particularly new board members who have 90 days to be certified. It's great education, it's good information, and I think it's a nice refresher for all board members to go through. So if you'd like to participate in that, it's a virtual session. It's at noon next Thursday. You can contact your CAM who will give you the Zoom link. It's a Zoom session. Data reporting for the month of August. I won't read through all of them. However, volume did pick up in August compared to July. It is hurricane season, and I wanted to make a friendly reminder that the Disaster Planning Committee has posted hurricane preparedness information on the community websites, including kpscc.com. Our hurricane plan for 2022, along with Heritage and USI Insurance Disaster Preparedness Guide, are also posted there. Reminder, our office will be closed for Labor Day, and we will open on Tuesday morning. For all general inquiries, please visit kpscc.com and visit the Property Management First Service tab for loads of information and forms. You can always call the main office at 813-642-8990 to reach the on-site team or the Customer Care Center. That is my report.
I'm not going to let you off that easy. I noticed in the number of work orders that were submitted that there was a total of 58 work orders submitted from the entire community for landscaping, of which if I'm reading this correctly, 26 were requests, so we could throw those out. So basically, in the entire community, it's sending in work order requests for lack of work being performed by the landscapers, we only had 32 POC requests. I know the community and the Federation Board, you get a lot of complaints about things not being trimmed, the lawn not being edged and mowed appropriately, but it seems to be, and you can tell me how you can correct this, it seems to be a lack of requests coming in through the work order system to remedy the situations, and people are relying more on phone calls and emails to you or to Joey to say, hey, I have this problem, can you get it remedied? And it is evident with the number of work orders that are being submitted, which is a lack of attention, in my opinion, by the Association POCs to make us aware of certain things that are going on. Do you see that, and what is your opinion on that?
My opinion on that is that it's really two things. Yes, I do believe that the TOCs need to submit more work orders, although some of them do struggle with that, and there's an educational component that I think we're willing to absorb. Hence my suggestion to try and get at least a monthly review out. It would include some of those work order things. My candid opinion of that, quite honestly, is that I think that the community is fed up with the performance of the landscapers, and they've bypassed the work order system and are going directly to us for immediate action. That's what I think is happening.
Is that effective?
I'm sorry.
Is that effective?
It's like putting out little fires everywhere. It does put out little fires. However, when the entire forest is burning, I think we need to have a better solution, and that is through an ongoing dialogue with our landscapers on a more regular basis, and not just that monthly meeting, but more integration from Joey, myself, with them to increase communication and identify issues before those fires start.
You know the board's opinion of their performance.
I do.
You heard it in a meeting with the board earlier this month of our dissatisfaction across the board with every landscaper. I know that Joey is one individual. I know that every time you take and send an email into Joey or call Joey, it is detracting from Joey's job because Joey has to go out to that particular site to try and remedy a situation instead of going through the work order system. Therefore, Joey's pulled in 113 different directions while he's trying to do the oversight of the landscapers, which is, in my opinion, kind of unfair to Joey. Is every time we have a problem, and you get a phone call or Joey gets a phone call, yeah, it's putting out the little fire, but while you're putting out that little fire, Joey's other work is not getting done. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, you are. It's again, going back to the way that it was broken down earlier in my report, this gentleman is responsible for reviewing the landscape every day. He doesn't have the time to be managing these special request work orders and things of that nature if he's going to be effective with these reviews. So it goes back onto the work order system does help us so that he's not running around and trying to respond to every little thing, but it also gives us that log that we need. Arlene in our office does monitor and try and keep these work orders flowing. We reach out I get the emails all the time back to the vendors on these work orders that they're either completed or they're starting to get 3 days late or 5 days late. We do track them. When they're in our system, we are actively managing those work orders. So those are very, very helpful for us.
And with the work orders, you can tell me if the board's impression is wrong, is when a work order is submitted, they have so much time to remedy that work order. If they fail, it's considered a carryover,
Correct.
and they are scored a quarter point for every single work order which they do not complete. So it's nice that you get the phone calls, and it's nice that, you know, the POCs are making the phone calls because there's problems. But when you don't put it in the work order system, the vendor, the landscaper, is not being held accountable to get that issue resolved, and if not having it resolved, in basically not being penalized for it.
Yeah, it can statistically give them a higher score than what they would have already had. And make them look like their performance is actually better.
Because their performance, this is over and above their performance scoring. The quarter of a point that they lose for every work order that is not completed within a reasonable time. So there is a reason for the work order system, there is a tracking in the work order system, and the association should be, through their POC, or president, or whomever, submitting these work orders, because it's the one way we're going to be able to get a little control, because when they start losing, and I know during the month of July, there was one that had 40-some work orders which weren't completed. They lost over 10 points. I think they lost like 11 points in scoring before they even started on their performance. And they basically failed. And it cost them $12,000 to $13,000. You don't issue the work orders, they're not going to be scored for not doing the work. And that is the problem. The other thing I have is you asked for the board's permission to send out a summary to the associations on the scorings that are done each month. Does any member of the board have an objection to Steve doing that? And you have the permission from the board to implement that particular program.
Excellent, good. I will start that in October after the October ratings. We'll send an executive summary out to each section, to the directors within each association, within each section, with any of the highlights that are coming out of that. And I think that that'll help if you can get that message out to your residents. That's a good start anyways. Thank you.
You're welcome. We will go to committee reports. Vicki, do you have anything? Ray? I know you want to talk, Ray, about insurance, so the floor is yours.
There will be a meeting of the insurance committee in September and October. Right now, just so you're aware, we've been informed that if we do really, first off, it appears that there is one company in the United States that will write our property insurance in the entire country. We have recently spent the money, or approved, we haven't spent the money yet, to have an appraisal done of all the property, which is required by state law every 3 years. It's likely that the property will go up a lot, to about $1 billion worth of value. On top of that, property rates, as I'm sure all of you are aware from your own condominium policies, have gone up. And that is the biggest single coverage we have. Of the $4.8 million we spent last year, that was probably close to $4 million of it. Property rates probably will go up somewhere between, and this is a wild guess, between 15 and 25%. So insurance is going to go up this year. If we do really well, it's still going to go up. So be ready for it and be prepared. By the way, all of you, if you didn't see it this week, the state of Florida, because of the failures of some companies, all of us, other than your auto policy, just had a 0.7% fee put on all your policies to help pay for the companies that are failing. So my report is really lousy, but I think you ought to know what's going on. Any questions?
There was, and I mentioned this to you before the meeting, there was a resident who posted on Nextdoor who lives in the HOA not covered by our insurance policy. He was noting that his homeowner's policy that he took out went up 230-some%. So if an individual who in an HOA, they buy their own insurance policy, if their rates are going up at that rate, we are going to see, and I think Ray will agree with me, what we've been told, somewhere around a 30 to 40% increase possibility due to the property insurance, what we'll see. If we increase the replacement cost in the community from 850 million to $1 billion, that is going to have an impact on it, and the cost per hundred. We probably expect to see a 20% or more increase on the cost per hundred. So we are going to see a massive rate increase for insurance, and I would only say to all of those who have worked so diligently on disaster preparedness, just pray we don't have to use it, because if Florida gets hit, and it was in the paper this morning, if Florida gets hit with a major hurricane or a number of small hurricanes, you're going to have companies failing around here left and right as far as insurance providers, and it's just going to get tighter and higher in the state of Florida.
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
I mean, it's not great news, but we have to be upfront and honest to what's going to happen with it.
Yeah. Besides that, all of the other lines of insurance are going to go up, but probably not nearly as much. So it's just a bad time for Florida insurance, and there's a lot of factors not involving Kings Point. Kings Point's loss ratio on property is approximately 4%. It's astoundingly profitable for the company. But we have such a huge exposure in one spot. It's a terrible situation for an insurance company to insure $1 billion worth of property where it could all be destroyed in one storm. It's exceedingly unlikely that'll happen, but that's why it's going to be a problem this year. And it's throughout the state, the 200% increase, that's the worst I've heard, but I'm sure you've all seen rate increases on your policies.
Thank you, Ray. Shirley, anything on disaster?
Did you want to talk about spectrum?
I don't talk about it. Unless you have some new news. Okay.
For those of you, can you hear me? For those of you who are planning on getting the booster shot that's coming out, just a couple of clarifications that I received last night. One of them is if you have not been vaccinated initially, the booster you will get is the old booster. You will not get the new booster. And that's a CDC requirement. The new booster that Matt was talking about does have the variants in it that is occurring in the community right now. But remember, you will not get that unless you've been vaccinated prior to that with the old vaccination, I should say. And as far as disaster, it is still an active committee working with Mary Ann and the folks from the master. We are still looking at having meetings to clarify more information that'll be coming out, so make sure you keep up to date with those emails. Yeah, please.
So one good note is August, we did not have any hurricanes, and that's the first time in 3 decades. So while we've got negative going on, we've made it through August. Let's hope we're successful in September.
That would be the hope. I'm sure Ray would appreciate that.
I hope you're knocking on wood, Mary Ann.
Yes, yes. There's been a ton of work done with the committee that was chaired by Mary Ann. And please pay attention to the information coming out on the website. That's all I have.
Jim, do you have anything?
Just that we are going to have Employee Appreciation Day next Thursday, September the 8th, in the Waterside Room, correct? This is being sponsored by the Federation, the Master, and the COA. We're looking for volunteers, for those of you that may want to help with it, or be it over there. You can talk to me, or you can talk to Jane, or I see Eileen's here, one of us, if you would like to volunteer. Matt's, what are the times now?
11 to 1 and 4 to 6.
11 to 1 for the lunch, and then 4 to 6, which will be for the dinner, for the people that can't make the lunch or depending on work schedules. This is for all the employees of First Service, Vesta, the Master. And these are employees, and this is just an appreciation for everything they do for us around here. Any questions?
Seeing Dan isn't here, in regard to the Spectrum contract, we took and Shirley, you can slap me in the back of the head if I misspeak. We have sent in our red lines to Spectrum. We had a conference call in regard to them that was conducted by Mr. Murphy and Dan Hector and Steve Knott, along with the representatives from Spectrum, covering some of the red lines. We sent the finalized copy into them, and we are waiting to hear back from Spectrum. We have not heard back on our red line requests. Some of the things that Spectrum wanted, as far as the board was concerned, were not advantageous to the community and left the community with some jeopardy, which we felt was not fiduciarily responsible to accept those. We don't know where they'll go. Webb is involved with them, so we'll just wait and see when they respond. And the other thing which Dan is working on with the contract committee is the upcoming RFP that will be going out shortly with an expected completion date in December. And that RFP is for the property management company, because First Services contract runs out next March. We want to get it completed and get the responses in and take it to the membership by December. It may run to January, but if the community were to pick another property manager and it was the appropriate thing to do, there would be a lot of work involved in that transition from First Service to whatever new company we were to get. On a side note, I was picking on Steve of being recording secretary today. Steve, I want to thank you. You're the one who put together the draft minutes for the special membership meeting we had and got them posted on the KPSCC website. I appreciate you doing that. We did find a couple of errors that Mr. Wilkie made, and he has been appropriately reprimanded for his errors. It was a spreadsheet error. So if you were to watch, and I'm just going to let everybody know, if you were to look at the minutes that are posted and you were to read and you were to watch the video when he reported the vote on the mulch contract, he basically listed more associations voting that were in attendance, and it was actually 4. And it's because the spreadsheet picked them up because they were hidden on the spreadsheet. And when Steve sent me the minutes and said, these look okay, there's only one problem. We only had 101 associations and present or proxy, and yet you're showing that 105 associations voted. There's something wrong here. Steve found the mistake, and I appreciate the effort you put in to find that mistake on that spreadsheet. So it did agree, but I want to thank you for taking, and I know you're going to be working on these minutes, and I appreciate that extra effort that you put in.
My pleasure. Good help's hard to find.
Are you speaking of yourself?
It's in reference to the previous recording secretary.
Oh, Mr. Wilkie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I
The
did
jury's
not-
still out on me.
Steve, I know the board fully supports the work you do, and coming into this community is not easy. You were told that when you were interviewed for the job. I think you have basically done an exceptional job of picking up the community, and I know you have a lot of challenges within the community, so good help may have been hard to find, but I think we found one in our new property manager, so. And I do take a great deal of pleasure in harassing Matt. For those of you who don't know, Wednesday, 2 days ago, was Matt's birthday. So if you see him, he is getting old, he doesn't want to. He's trying to stay as young as possible. But Matt, from the entire board, best wishes, and I hope you had a great birthday, and I hope you have a successful year coming up as you progress your way through your 40s. We've all been there. We've all done it. Have a little fun doing it. So happy birthday, Matt. With that, we will go on to new business, as there is no unfinished business. We did meet with the auditor earlier this week, who audits, and it's an independent auditing firm of Walters and Associates, who audit the land trust financials. We asked for some changes to be made to the audit. I can basically tell you that they found no errors in their figures. There were some changes that they made of how they wanted things reflected. But basically, they felt that the land trust and the financials were perfectly in order, and that what was reported was correct. So I would entertain a motion to accept the audit. Thank you, Vicki. Can I have a second? Thank you, Shirley. And with that, any discussion? Then I will call the question. All in favor of approving the draft audit? Opposed? Then we will notify the audit company that the draft audit has been accepted by the board. And we will get a finalized version of the audit. And once we have that finalized version, which may take a week, I think is what the auditor advised. I do know that there are some residents that like to go through that audit to review it. You can receive a copy of the finalized audit as soon as it's available by filling out the necessary request form at the First Service office. And with that, I will open the floor up for good and welfare announcements or any other concern that a member may have. You don't want to walk over to the other mic?
This is just a simple announcement that as of yesterday, September 1st, the Kings Point COA reopened. We have been closed for August for all of the volunteers to take some time off. Our offices are now open from 9 to noon, Monday through Friday. And you're welcome to come in. We might even, as things change, we might even be able to start offering cookies again when you stop in. COA members needing notary service will need to make an appointment. They can simply call at 813-633-1710 to schedule an appointment for notary service. That's all I have.
Thank you, Eileen. It's good to have you back open again.
Thank you.
I'll make it for this one.
Just make sure the mic's turned on.
Jeff Farkas, Vice President Inverness. And I just want to comment on what Steve was talking about with the POCs. And I was educated about 2-3 months ago. We're having some issues, especially with the ants, which I've talked about once before. And between Steve and Joey, they educated me that if we don't put in the work orders, there's no way to track it. And according to the contract, the landscaper for section 4 is supposed to do an inspection, and they're supposed to report many different things, which I'm sure are not being reported. But if the POCs put it in, then it's there. They said, yeah, 30, I'm probably most of those 30 reports you have. So I put them in almost 2 or 3 times a week,
Yeah,
because I want the property.
we appreciate that. There's many ways of watchdogging this, and that's one of them.
So no, I appreciate you educating me, because I didn't know. Because I would make the phone calls. My regional manager, a really great guy, his name is Steven, he and I work very close together. I was just calling him and saying, yeah, I got this or I got that, and I didn't realize it wasn't getting reported. So now I put it in the system. And it's not that hard. It's very simple.
Appreciate you doing that. Yeah, it's my hope going forward that through a monthly report back to each association that we'll be able to have better relationships with your landscapers, and you'll get better performance with that.
And I will tell you, and Steve, you can validate this, the last landscaper that failed during the month of July, if it wasn't for the work orders and them not completing the work orders, they would not have failed. It was the work orders and them not following up to complete the work orders that were put in that caused them to fail. And that's how important the work orders truly are.
This is Susan Rado from Manchester too. And since we're talking about work orders, I think our association is pretty active putting in POC reports. And in light of that, when we put in a report and it's received, I guess by first service, I get a report back that says completed. Now, 3 days later, it's still not complete. So I went to Steve and had a little discussion with him. I also brought it up to the chairman of the landscaping committee. I'm having a little problem understanding if I put in a report and it says completed and it's not, is how is the report being checked? Anybody look at it if the job was done? So after I had this discussion yesterday for the same job that said completed, not once, but twice, I get a report back now, it says, one said in progress, the same report, and now and another report came in, it's pending. So I just want to understand how that is being reviewed. It's one thing we send it in and it's a job for us volunteers. How is it being addressed and reviewed on the other end? Can you explain that to me carefully, please?
I can, and you and I had a meeting Wednesday evening
Right.
about that, and that is a specific issue with that specific work order.
It happens to others too, Steve, I
Right.
just didn't bring it.
I did look into that, and I knew I would see you today and that I would give you the answer, but now that we're in front of everybody and the question has been posed, I'll give the
Well, I
answer to
think other
everybody.
people would want to know too.
When our office reviews that work order, there was a note attached to it that it had been scheduled for replacement. That specific item was scheduled to be done. Our office took that as, this work order is completed. Not the work was completed, but that it had been scheduled, done, and closed out.
But it's kind of misleading,
So-
don't you think, when I received it?
So did you receive a notice too that it was just reopened? I think
Yeah,
that's what I heard you
it's
say.
in progress.
Right, so yesterday I went in and asked the office, let's figure out what closed really means.
Right.
We have an understanding now of what closed means. It means when the work is done, not when the work order has been
And
satisfied.
how do you know if the work is done?
We will go back and communicate with the landscaper. They are to tell us when the work is done.
And they do that?
They do that, that's how we close them out, but this one was specifically closed out based off of notes that were written on a work order from the
Okay, so
landscaper.
received and impending and in progress and completed, those are the four
Yeah,
operative words that we should be using, so we
Yeah.
will understand where that
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your efforts.
You are more than welcome.
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah.
Mr. Allen, we missed you earlier this week.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. Doctor's appointment. Thank you. I want to be.
That was not me who said that. That
I
was-
know, I'm looking at the person who said it. I'm Jim Allen, on,
Raise that up, Jim. The
Can't hear me.
whole
You do talk, Jim.
okay, there we go. Jim Allen, I am from Idlewood, president of Idlewood, and I'm also on the Landscape Oversight Committee. And everyone here really needs to understand that the Landscape Oversight Committee was very, very instrumental in developing the grading process for the landscapers. And one of the components in that grading process are the work orders. So calling the office and making a request does not track any of that information. It is imperative that you put it in the system. If you don't have it documented in the system, you might as well not have made any contact at all. It's very, very important that we hold those landscapers accountable and responsible for getting the work done and complete. And when they do report something as complete, I will have a resident come back to me and said they didn't do what they said they were going to do. And that whole complete or incomplete comment doesn't really make any sense at all. So I put another work order in. And I continue to put in work orders until that work is complete. So complaining about it or, whatever, it takes a village and it takes a lot of eyes. And that's part of the problem that we have. We only have one set of eyes in Joey running around here trying to get everything done. Our residents are very quick to point out that something is being missed. You have a POC who has a responsibility of putting that in the system, and saying that I don't know how to use the system isn't acceptable. At this particular point in time, it is very, very easy to put that work order in, and it's no reason for anyone not to have it done. Put the work orders in. You cannot hold these people accountable if we don't do the work, and encourage your residents to get that information to your POC so you can put that in so that we can hold them accountable. Doesn't get any more difficult than that. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Very well said.
Do you want to unretire?
No, well, what? Oh, no, nice try though.
You just won't let him go, will you, Steve?
Good one.
That was a good one. Steve, I gave you a compliment earlier of how fortunate we are that First Service was able to locate you to come in to be the general manager. But I will give you a second compliment because it's something that I have taken as my task, which was to loosen you up a little. You came from the country club environment, and it is fun to see you laugh and joke and kid around with the residents and the board and stuff, so, thanks, because it just makes all of our jobs a lot easier.
And I'm still wearing my jacket.
Yeah, I know.
Something.
That's because it's Kevlar. Any other comments, concerns? Then I will take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Vicky, second. Thank you, Ray. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.